Hi everybody, Richard Tromans here again at Artificial Lawyer TV. Today we're very honoured to have with us Simon Harper and Alistair Maiden. The reason why they're here together is to talk about the strategic partnership between SYKE, a legal tech consultancy, and LOD, which is Lawyers on Demand. And in fact was, if my memory serves me right, the very first company of its sort. Nice to have you on the show. Hi Simon. Hi Alistair.
Hi.
Hey, Richard.
Could you just tell the audience briefly about yourself before we get into the partnership and so forth? Simon, would you want to kick off?
Yeah, sure. So Simon Harper, founder of LOD 14 years ago. Before that, media and tech lawyer. Now running the LOD business based in the UK.
And when just to remind the audience, when did you start LOD?
So LOD started back in 2007,
Wow.
which feels like an incredibly long time ago. Now, I think the whole world of alternative legal services were only 3 separate words at that stage, I think.
Yeah, and you really were a pioneer. I mean, I remember when you launched, it was like Godzilla had arrived. It was like everyone was like completely freaking out.
And quite you know, it's mostly great to go from as you say, sort of the maverick to the mainstream. But I guess in everyone that starts a business, there's always a bit of you that still wants to be the maverick.
Well, we'll get on. And this is the opportunity, isn't it? Alistair, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started SYKE?
Yeah, so I'm the CEO and founder of SYKE. Founded the business about 4.5 years ago, and I used to be a legal director at Alistair before I founded SYKE. Digitized the contracts process and some other legal ops stuff there, and fell in love with the technology aspect of it. I think I was a little burnt out from negotiating clause 11.4 and needed to get into something new. But I was just astonished about the impact that technology could have on the kind of BAU routine work streams that we were working on. So quit and set up the business to help other organizations do the same thing.
Fantastic. And were you a techie? I mean, obviously you had, you were a lawyer and you were a GC and so forth, but did you have a sort of tech background where you know?
I used to do all the tech contracts for Walmart, which of course was the ultimate owner of Alistair then, within EMEA. And so I was used to the parlance, and I was quite I was probably to the irritation of some of my customers, actually more focused on the technology aspects of the contract than the warranties and liability provisions. So I kind of got very much into the subject matter and took it from there, really.
Gotcha. Fantastic. So let's talk about the partnership, and we should stress for listeners that this is not a merger yet. They are not a single entity. They are 2 entities still. They're just going to be working together very closely. Could you just tell us a little bit about how this came about and what you want to do with this partnership?
Sure. And I guess it's quite it's not this is not a very recent story. Alistair and I have known each other from the early days of SYKE. I think we met through an LOD colleague who became aware in the early days of what SYKE was up to, introduced the 2 of us, and I think we had a sort of shared view of the legal world and what particularly corporate legal teams were struggling with. I mean, going back, Richard, you mentioned at the start that 14 years ago, the problem that we were trying to solve, if you like, was that was teams trying to get their legal work done in a different way to what at the time really was very much a single option out there if they weren't going to do it themselves, which was the traditional law firm. The LOD model was about giving an option in the middle of that, a different way of doing it. And when we spoke to Alistair, I mean, in many ways, obviously we've got a people-based solution that's changed and grown over time, but at the core is still people. Speaking to Alistair, really trying to achieve many similar things for in-house teams, but with tech in the middle of that. So a shared view, a very different solution, but we ended up speaking to very similar people about about absolutely overlapping topics. So he was always someone good to have a coffee with or a pint with, and it grew from there, really.
Fantastic. Alistair, your take?
Yeah, no, similar, obviously similar backstory to Simon. You know, I've always been really interested in, I mean, ultimately our customers are interested in the deliverable, be that faster contracts, better access to advice, and you know, quicker review of documentation, whatever that might be. And as you identified at the start, Richard, technology is an enabler to that, but it isn't the entire solution. And you know, over a few glasses of wine and more, you know, Simon and I think, have a shared vision of a future whereby technology might be the conduit to that. It might control the direction of where a legal service request is sent to. And that request might have an automated output, or it might need to go to the right expert or the right managed legal service. And so I'm really excited about the possibility of actually working together on that vision over the next couple of years.
Fantastic. And I mean, for me, what excites me is perhaps sort of ironically not so much the lawyers on demand in terms of there's a bunch of people who are expert lawyers and they're brought in when they're needed. It's that fusion between the tech and the process and the legal managed services aspect and your legal ops provision, and that all kind of comes together very nicely. That fuses quite nicely. I just wondered, is that how you see it, or is yeah, well, you tell me your vision. How is this going to come together?
I think the consistent message from our customers is they're not so much interested in the brand of the legal service provider. It's more about having the right talent, resource, team to actually deal with the individual problem. And you know, I spend a lot of time working on legal front doors, which are technological solutions to triage work in the right direction. And I think those could be, you know, moving forward, these are massively influential in terms of enabling a request to go to the right person or right system. And I think that's very exciting. So.
But well, bringing this back to Simon, I mean, how is there going to be more of an, in terms of this partnership, is there going to be more of an emphasis on your LMS aspects, or is it the whole thing? I'm just trying to figure out how does the tech thing that, you know, Alistair's working on, like doc automation or helping an in-house legal team implement a new CLM, for example.
Yeah.
How does that presume? I mean, I could be wrong, but presumably that doesn't connect quite so tightly with having you know, lawyers on demand, to put it in those terms, as opposed to having a sort of more fixed resource or structured resource.
Sure. And let me say, I'll give a couple of thoughts, and definitely worth getting Alistair's take on this too, because I think just for a little bit of a wider context, probably important to say that something that we've learned over the years with LOD at least, is that the things that have worked best, the developments for clients that have worked best, have been the ones that we have developed in a sort of collaborative way along the way with the clients. So the ones that they've nudged us along to do, you're right, Richard, LOD started off with a secondment model, and what we've done with managed services and the teams of lawyers that we're working with has grown over time. But it's the best pieces of that growth have been where we've done it with reacting to suggestions from clients and then building things together. And I think this will be no different. In some ways, it's always tempting for me and Alistair to sit down and with our teams and get out the whiteboards and come up with a master plan for the next 5 years. But I think the reality is that it becomes a bit of an agile process. So really, the pictures that we have of what we are doing right now, if you like, and then maybe this is an excuse to have ongoing conversations with you, Richard. But then over time, you learn with the clients about how you're building that. So we've got the picture of, we've got the people and the tech, which in a very slightly oversimplistic way, you know, we feel, as we said, bringing that together is fundamental to developing services for the next decade. And from an LOD perspective, you're spot on. Our managed services, our managed teams has been the piece where that need has been most clear most quickly. That our clients, take the client example again, our clients are already asking for that. Part of RFPs that people are putting out as part of more informal conversations that we're having. So it's right at the front there. But I think also that wider group of flexible lawyers that we've got working, whether they're inside or outside currently of a managed team, part of the next part of the solution. And I think some of the things that Alistair's got in mind for the direction that SYKE wants to take as well.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, to Alistair, I mean, I mean, one aspect of this would be, let's say, for example, a large corporate said, okay, we need someone to handle our sales contracts. We've got millions of them, and we know we need a team from LOD. And then you come along and say, well, actually, yeah, but we can actually improve the process even further by bringing in some doc automation, perhaps, or some other technology to help extract some of the data and so forth. And is that kind of how you're thinking?
Yeah, and I think it's really important to note this is already happening, Richard. So often, you know, for our very big clients, we will design a process and implement a process which envisages a people aspect. And to give a tangible example of that, we've done a huge project which is quite well known for a large FMCG company. I think something like 50% of contracts are completely self-served, but if they start to, if a contract needs to be negotiated out with the parameters of a digital playbook, it actually goes to their alternative legal service providers to support that. And you know that is happening quite regularly already. But as Simon said, you know, we are kind of, I think all of our best work is quite flexible to the individual client. So there's not going to be a prescribed way of doing this. And there are lots of other similar examples. I think the other thing, actually, the other reason to work together is, I think, you know, Simon and the LOD team obviously have loads of LOD folks out working in-house legal roles, you know, across the full corporate landscape, and there's you know, Simon, you always said they get asked very frequently for help with the kind of stuff we do, which is you know, what should be my as a large organization, what should our legal technology strategy be, what technologies should we be considering, how can we better use what we've got already, how do we budget for that? What's the business case? You know, what's the legal design? How do we choose between different CLM products? So there's that whole, I guess, consultancy piece. Although the bulk of SYKE's work is implementation, we do also provide that directional consultancy as well. And funnily enough, I mean, there was actually, we were recounting the other day, Simon, I think we actually a large organization ran a tender for alternative legal service providers, and we were reflecting that neither SYKE nor LOD actually got onto that panel because SYKE didn't offer people and LOD didn't offer tech. So you know, there's an obvious synergy in putting us together, I think. Hopefully that won't happen again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
And does this mean that, I mean, SYKE won't be working with other ALSPs? And as you know, I can't stand that term, but we're still struggling to find a better one. And vice versa, that Simon, you've now got a commitment to SYKE, and you won't be running off to work with Simmons Wavelength or whatever.
Well, Alistair and I discussed this, and I think it's and I think it almost it didn't need very much conversation between the two of us. I think philosophically, and I'm now going to use the phrase you didn't like, but the sort of the ALS world, we've both found to be quite a collaborative one, a sense of sort of shared endeavour and a bit of shared mission still. in what everyone's trying to achieve. And so trying to be, if you like, draw lines and say what each of us weren't able to do doesn't feel like the spirit of the relationship or the thing that would be particularly helpful to clients or helpful to the growth of the sector. So we've not said that. It's not been about that. And I think it was a nice thing that in some ways we didn't even really address the question until some people asked us afterwards, because it had been so obvious to us that wasn't what this was about.
Right, right. So you'll bring in other people as and when needed. And just briefly on, because I think people are curious, the investment which came from LOD into SYKE, why do that, and how does that benefit everybody?
I mean, from LOD's perspective, it was about making sure that the relationship was very much a real one that we were all bought into. And I think we all hear of partnerships in the market that are you scratch the surface and there's not very much more there underneath. We'd known each other for long enough that we really did want there to be something there underneath, and we wanted to make sure that we heard Alistair's vision for what he wanted to do with SYKE. We wanted to be part of that, but we were very happy to facilitate it as well. That was the LOD perspective.
Got you. It makes sense. And Alistair, I mean, the cash. I mean, I can't remember if you actually did. You say how much it was?
No.
Oh, thanks for telling us. Now's your big chance.
No, but no. So look, Richard. I think someone would shoot me if I said how much it is. But what I will say is that, as you know, this time last year, SYKE had 40 people. We've now got over 100.
Wow.
There's a huge opportunity in the market. We want to double in size this year. We want to grow into new jurisdictions. We want to make the most of the opportunity presented by LOD's reach and opportunity. And so the investment gives us an opportunity to do that and to really double down on some of the good things that we're doing already. And I'm tremendously excited about. I totally echo Simon's point. To have a concrete partnership is great, but we won't stop working. Some of the organisations you mentioned, we've got a project where we're working with Wavelength at the moment. We also work with lots of the other providers as well. It's great to collaborate, and it's, for me, it's always about rather than seeking to do everything for a customer, even though we might not be the particular expert in an area. I would much prefer to say, look, we are the legal technology experts, and let other organisations do what they're good at, because it's better for the customer. And we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So thank you. No, absolutely. And just last word, really. I mean, where do you see this heading in the next 2 or 3 years? Where would you like to be with this relationship? We'll do Simon and then Alistair. Where would you like this to be in the next few years?
I'm gonna give a little bit of a fuzzy answer, because I think that reflects the question of where we think the industry will be, if you like, in the next 2 or 3 years. And it's something that's I've always worried historically. It's like, will this come to an end at some point? Will there have been a period where people look back and go, do you remember new law? And they might do with the terminology, but it's really great to have got to the point where the level of being in the mainstream and adoption has got to the point where, right, okay, this is a fundamental part of the landscape that's here to stay. I guess the piece that we don't know is quite what people are going to be asking for in the next 3 to 5 years' time. So our job, if you like, is to look forward ahead enough to be leading that, whatever it may be. I think we said the same thing at LOD about 5 years ago, to be leading that. And we think now that combo of people and tech is the fundamental mix to be leading that. But quite what it'll look like in 5 years. It's exciting to see, but it's still changing, which is the great thing, I think.
No, things are changing so rapidly. It's true indeed. And Alistair, you get the last word. Where are we going to be?
See, fundamentally, SYKE is and always has been an agile business, and we're agile to listen to what customers are asking for, and respond to that quickly. So that started with CLM, and continues, but also things like legal front doors. We're now starting some really exciting work on the future of how legal teams would work and using AR and VR, and which is intriguing. And I guess we'll always listen to what people want and be set up in a way that we can respond quickly. Rather
just interject one thing. What is AR, BR?
So alternative and virtual reality.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow.
So and a lot of our customers are global legal teams who were used to jumping on a plane and getting together once a quarter, but that's not possible, and it might not be enabled from a budget perspective moving forward. So how do they interact, and what's the optimal way to do that beyond what we're doing already?
So we're going to have lawyers with those headsets.
We've got them already. They're
Really?
already here. Yeah. So mine's not within reach, but we're using them already.
Oh well, yep, you heard it here first. It's the future of law, everybody. Fantastic. Well, look, I've got to leave it there, but thank you. Well, it's left a few things hanging to explore later, which is great. So thanks very much. Congratulations on the partnership, and we look forward to following you. Take care.
Thanks, Richard. Cheers.
Thanks, Richard.